The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of the 15-Point Plan podcast. I'm Jacqueline Smith, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Ryan Greigg. Ryan, say hi.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Another exciting episode of the 15-Point Plan where, Jacqueline, our mission, of course, give a little more energy, have a little bit less stress, right?
Or a lot. Let's have a lot more energy and a lot less stress. Let's go with that.
I love that. Okay, I'll take it.
So today we are actually going to talk about a book that both of us have recently been rereading. It's called High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. And we just wanted to have a conversation because we noticed just so many parallels between the high performance habits and the 15-point plan. And what we were both just talking about is how we talked about the 15-point plan helping us have higher energy, more happiness. And that's very much what Brendon Burchard talks about in the book in terms of what the high performance habits do. So today we're just going to introduce the concept of high performance, and then we're actually going to dive in over the next several episodes into each of the 6 habits that he outlines in the book. So essentially, if you haven't read the book, that's okay because we're going to read it for you. And maybe you'll be inspired to read it, through listening to these episodes. But he interviewed high performers across many industries and sectors, and they came up with these 6 habits that were consistent across the board with high performers. And so, Ryan, first, what is high performance?
Well, Jacqueline, for me, high performance is what it's not sacrifice. And I thought jumping into this is when you're a high performer, you're very, very good at one area of your life at the detriment of other areas of your life. For example, you're a high-level business person, but you spend so much time in your business that you don't have time for your family, or you spend so much time in your business that you don't have time for your health. And what I learned was that high performers actually use all of those areas to be at peak performance in all areas of their life, right?
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that because my team and we recently read this book, several of us on the team, and we did a little presentation of our takeaways, and several of them shared openly that, when they first started reading the book and got the book assignment, because we were doing a book club, they weren't really that excited about it. And I thought that was so fascinating. And so they shared that that's kind of what they believed also, that it was more of maybe high production habits.
Mm-hmm.
And that it had to do with maybe how much you're achieving, like you said, in your business at the detriment of your health or your family, like you said. And so a lot of them shared that their mindset shifted after reading this book in terms of what is high performance and what does it mean, and really how he defines it in the book is it's high performance, so above average success, but for a long period of time. So not just these one hit wonders, or
Right.
You have a good year in real estate, you're now, we call it in real estate, we call those people high producers. Right. I'm a high producing agent, and that's not what high performance is. High performance is you've maintained above average success and you've maintained your health, your relationships, your sanity, right? Over the long term. And I just think that's so important because who wants to be successful if it means you're going to lose your life?
100%. I agree. And it's, I don't want to downsize or downplay anything that we have done in our lives, but it's not too hard to do one thing great for a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. What's hard is to do all things in your life for a longer period of time. And one thing I love about Brendon Burchard is similar to the 15-point plan. He just gives you so many systems to help you do that. And these high performance habits are really systems. And if you listen to Brendon Burchard a lot, you'll find he has a system for everything. He's got a system for when he walks through a door. He's got a system for before he goes on stage. He's got a system for all the questions he might need to ask himself. And so by looking at these high performance habits, really what this is a system to ensure you're going to perform at the highest level in all the buckets of your life for higher than average time and higher than average success in all areas, right?
Yeah. So you don't have to choose between living a healthy, good life, happy life, and high performance. In fact, that's part of the definition of it. And so, what they found in their studies was that high performers were actually happier and more fulfilled than underperformers.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a higher level of contribution and service in their communities. They had more enriched relationships, fulfilling relationships with their family and friends. They scored higher on energy. And so it's fascinating to me because I see so many people hold themselves back in life. And we've kind of seen this swing over the last several years, especially in social media, where it was like hustle culture. People got tired of that. And we swung the pendulum the other direction. And now it's all about comfort culture. So we went from
Right.
culture to comfort culture, and there's nothing great that happens in comfort except for it feels good in the moment, but we're sacrificing our future, our dreams, our ability to have greater impact because we're afraid of what going for it might mean.
Mm-hmm. 100% afraid to go for it. And what kind of a life is that? We're sitting here comfortable and we've stopped dreaming the big dream. We've stopped doing all these things that when we thought of as a kid that we were going to go do, but then somebody told us along the way, well, that's kind of crazy. And remember, if somebody in your life is not telling you your goals and dreams are crazy, then you might not be dreaming and having big enough goals. And this system will allow you to get to those goals. This system will allow you to have these big goals and to shoot for them and to have a system to get to those. Jacqueline, let's jump in to the 6 high performance habits. Let's do an overview of that. And then, as Jacqueline said, we're going to dive deeper into each one of these over the next few weeks, right?
Yep, we sure are. Okay, well, habit 1 is seek clarity. And then 2 is generate energy. 3, raise necessity. 4 is increase productivity. 5 is develop influence. And 6 is demonstrate courage. And they kind of have those divided into 2 categories. So seek clarity, generate energy, and raise necessity. Those they have as personal habits. And then increase productivity, develop influence, and demonstrate courage. They have those classified as social habits. But there's 6 altogether. And yes, like Ryan said, we're going to go into each one in detail over the coming weeks.
And I love it because we can look at each one of these and we can ask ourselves, what would be 1 or 2 points from the 15-point plan that we can focus on that will help us do that? For example, when we look at high performance habit number 1, to seek clarity, well, immediately I just think, okay, what are my goals?
Mm-hmm.
What do my goals look like? Do I have goals?
Yeah.
Are they clear? Are they time bound? Are they something that I can achieve? Are they something that I can have clarity on? So seeking clarity is for me a very strong goal related topic. So we'll jump into seeking clarity and what that would mean as far as our goals, as far as knowing kind of who we would want to be, not just what we want to do, right? But who do we want to be? And thinking, I love how Brendon in that part, he talks about thinking forward, thinking future forward, talking about not just who am I today and what do I want from today, but rather who's the person I want to be in a year or a couple of years, or what's the thing that I want to achieve in a couple of years, and now working backwards from that. I love that.
Yeah. And then, keeping in mind that you can actually become a high performer. So it's not really about personality or your strengths, your innate talents. That has nothing to do with high performance, actually. So he talks about that at the beginning of the book and throughout. High performance are just that. They are habits. And so you can cultivate habits and systems to support those habits, like Ryan's talking about. Anyone can do that. And the goal is not just to have these successful spurts, but to build sustained success, right? We want this to be sustainable. And that's really what I love most about the 15-point plan is, and we've talked about this in past episodes because I've done, 75 hard. Ryan, you're going to be training to climb, a mountain.
That's
And so
right.
we,
Twice.
yeah, so we might do things in spurts for a period of time that may not necessarily be what will sustain over the long term. But that's why I love the 15-point plan, because you can change the definitions and customize each of the 15 points to be relative to what's going on in your world, right? And to be relevant to what's going on in your world at the time. So most plans out there or systems, like 75 hard, it's very concrete, 2 workouts a day, one outside, 45 minutes. It's not really a customized, sustainable plan, but the 15-point plan is. And like you said, so many of those tie into the 6 habits for high performance, especially like you said, those personal habits, but also when we get into influence and everything, it ties in as well.
100%. 100%. And to summarize a little bit, and just so to get us ready for jumping into high performance habit number 1 in a little bit more detail for next episode, this idea of clarity and our goals. There was a quote from the book, "Clarity breeds focus and motivation." And I really love that, Jacqueline, because when we talk about building energy and generating focus on what we really want to do, with clarity breeding focus and motivation, to me, I think a lack of clarity makes it so easy to not be motivated. If we don't know what we want, if we don't know what we want out of our relationships or what we want out of our health and wellness or what we want out of our personal goals, it's really easy to be, as you used to say, a lump on a log. Like, I'm just going to sit around because I don't really have clarity on what I want, on who I want to become. So the idea of clarity breeding focus and motivation, I thought was a really helpful way to think about it. And then the next idea that I really love that Brendon talked about, that I think kind of checks into this mindfulness category on the 15-point plan, was he talks about transitions. And again, we'll jump into this a little bit more in detail on the next episode. But a good thought to leave everybody with today is this idea on transitions. For example, when you get out of your car and you go to your office, and when you go to your office and you go on an appointment, then you go on an appointment, and you go to lunch, and then all the transitions. And I really love how he says these 2 things. He says, in between each one of those, you have to release tension and set an intention. So you have to release the tension from the one thing that you finished and set your intention on the next. And he's like, I do that for everything. I do that everywhere I go. And so again, it was a reminder. And when you look at somebody like Brendon Burchard, the #1 business coach in the entire world for many, many years, you can see how all of these things work so well for him and why he uses them. And so that idea, I really took that away, Jacqueline, over this last week of, in those transition times, am I releasing tension from the one transition and setting my intention into the next one? Very clear blocks on each thing that we do.
That's great. And that's a great system. So before we wrap up, if you are interested, he has an assessment. It's called the HP6 assessment. And I thought it was fascinating that he has people do this assessment and then do the assessment again in 6 or 7 weeks, after reading the book, and that people see an improvement in that amount of time. He's like, this isn't something that you have to take like 7 years to develop these habits in your life. He said, you can actually move the needle a lot in even 2 weeks. So if you are interested, you can go to growthday.com/HP6 assessment. You can also just Google high performance habits assessments and you'll find it. But it's growthday.com HP6 assessment. And you can take that assessment and come on this journey with us. I'm really excited. I hope this kind of ties more maybe meaning for you or clarity on some of the 15 points. And really that's where a lot of motivation comes from. It comes from clarity. So we are excited to dive in with you next week, starting with habit number 1, seeking clarity. We hope this is super valuable over the next few weeks together. And as always, thank you so much for joining us and for listening and tuning in, sharing our episodes with your friends and family. Spread the love. And you can always find us on social media, Ryan Park Greigg and Jacqueline Ray Smith on Instagram. And Ryan, let's any final words to wrap us up?
That's it, Jacqueline. And while you're going to look for that high performance habits assessment online and you're typing things in online, just type in winmakegive.com. All our previous episodes are on there, as well as the rest of our podcast network. I'm super excited to jump in a little bit more, get a refresher on high performance habits, and just continue to seek more clarity, generate more energy, Jacqueline. So thank you for going on this journey with me, as well as thank you everybody for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.